We look at which rookies to watch for the Baltimore Ravens during 2022 training camp with a very special guest next year on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we've returned here with another episode of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire. We're here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Ravens your first listen of the day. We're free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. And we're back at Taco Tuesday. We have our Taco Tuesday guest coming up in Spencer Schultz of Baltimore Beatdown. Great content talking about the Ravens rookies because they report to training camp today. So football's in the air. It's super, super exciting. But this is future me talking to you because, again, the audio and video for me desync. They're not synced up around, I think it's the 14-minute mark this time around. I know there was an issue with this last week, and I just wanted to, again, put a disclaimer out just when you get to that part and you're thinking, oh, why is the audio and video not synced up? I just wanted to say that it's not, and so you're prepared for that. But yeah, I don't know whether it's an internet issue or a recording software issue, technology, not my friend right now, but Spencer's audio and video is fine. My audio is fine, so it's not a huge deal at the end of the day. The content's still really good, but just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, we're going to talk a lot with Spencer today about a lot of different topics. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video if you're here on YouTube with us, and thank you for already subscribed. Be sure to follow us in audio form as well. Same show, both audio and video form. And follow me on Twitter at CashRicker34 and the Locked On Ravens account at Locked On Ravens. So without any further ado, let's dive into our content here with Spencer Schultz of Baltimore Beatdown. Returning as our Taco Tuesday guest of honor here, Spencer Schultz of Baltimore Beatdown. Spencer, football's in the air. Rookies reporting today to training camp. I'm excited. How you doing?
Doing quite well. Football's in the air. We're starting to get that late July, that August air rolling in. The grass is cut. Everybody's ready to start popping the pads, learning a little bit, going on some fun trips with Uncle Johnny Harbaugh, and having fun, man. It's football season.
Yeah, it's great. And I know, Spencer, we haven't talked in a while, so we haven't had a chance to talk about, I know, one of our favorite players in Justin Houston, someone who, again, we kind of thought, all right, this is probably going to happen. Nothing set in the stone, but they gave him
it was written in very thick pencil.
Right. Exactly. You could definitely pencil it in, but not quite. But then the Ravens make it official, 1-year deal. I'm excited about this one. I know that we talked for months and months and months and months about Houston, all of what seems like all those months ago and years ago. But I know that now he had that impact in 2021, comes back as a veteran option. He can still mentor guys like Odafe Oweh, Dalen Hayes, even David Ajabo, who I know is injured right now. But, I mean, how excited are you about the signing, and what does he bring now coming back here to Baltimore?
I think that Justin Houston was one of the more underrated defenders in the NFL last season, to be honest. Came in last year, had a reputation being, at this point in his career, designated pass rusher, not someone you want on all 3 downs, not necessarily a strength against the run. And I think in Wink Martindale's defense, he absolutely defied that, was a consistently strong run defender, generated pressure, didn't quite get to turn into sacks. But, I mean, not a lot of guys did in Wink Martindale's scheme, to be honest. Now that he's gone, we can look back and you can say the one thing that they didn't really produce was high pass rush sack numbers, and probably a result of blitzing so much. Quarterbacks go, all right, well, I got to get the ball out or I'm taking a sack. So I think that's the way they wanted to force it. So people might look at that sack number and think, oh, he's washed, or oh, he's, not this, not that. But ultimately, consistently one of their best defenders last season, probably behind Marlon Humphrey, maybe Calais Campbell, maybe, Bowser, Oweh, somewhere along those lines. So very excited to have him back. It's a, cheap deal, very friendly deal. And ultimately, it's just going to take a lot of pressure off of David Ajabo. It's going to take a lot of pressure off of even Tyus Bowser and Odafe Oweh are both also recovering from injuries, and allowing them to go see, what they can get in rehab and get back to schedule and not feel the pressure or the rush to have to get back ahead. So Justin Houston gives you a reliable veteran presence that, is going to, be effective, hopefully again against the run, and has always been a pretty dynamic pass rusher while he doesn't quite have that juice anymore. So I like Justin Houston a lot. I think he's a nice piece, and the kind of piece that brings that nice veteran presence ultimately to your front. He's consistent. He doesn't blow assignments. So you know what you're getting. You're getting it for cheap, and you're getting something pretty darn good. So I like it.
Yeah, and I know something I've been talking about for the past couple of days is the fact that, look, if you have everybody healthy, and again, we don't know if that's going to be the case week 1, but if you have everyone healthy, the top 5 outside linebackers are Tyus Bowser, David Ajabo, Odafe Owe, Dalen Hayes, and Justin Houston. That's a pretty good top 5 if you're looking at it that way. Now, if Bowser and Ajabo don't end up coming back for week 1, you're looking at more of Houston, Owe, Hayes, and then maybe like a Steven Means and a Jeremiah Moon or something. How much confidence does this signing give you in this outside linebacker group now that Houston is back compared to when he wasn't officially on the roster yet?
It definitely gives you confidence again. You just feel like you have sturdy depth there. Obviously, a terrible, terrible, tragic loss in Jalen Ferguson, someone that was supposed to come in and be able to really compete for that second contract, all of those things, and by all accounts was looking super lean and a really tragic loss in many ways for the Ravens, and that might have pushed their hand to get a little more urgent with Justin Houston as well. It was very sad and tragic, and it did create a need as well. So a tough, unfortunate situation into a room that probably could use a veteran leader. Justin Houston was very close with Jalen Ferguson. So hopefully, they have that veteran leadership, have that ability to have someone to look up to and work through a difficult time after they just lost a brother. So I think Houston's exactly that guy. He's very openly the Yoda to Odafe Owe, and I'm glad that he's in that room with them at a tough time. Guys are recovering from injuries and coming off a very tragic loss. So they need that veteran rock in that room, and he can be exactly that.
Yeah, he's definitely a locker room guy, someone who's well respected, and also people listen to him. He's someone who can definitely be someone to go to in multiple aspects, on and off the field, for multiple different things. So I think that his addition is going to do wonders in multiple different aspects. But, Spencer, it's July right now. There might not be a ton of stuff to talk about, but there have been some Twitter, I guess, debates. There's been some Twitter things that's been going on with Lamar Jackson. Now we see J.K. Dobbins yesterday with Ian Rappaport reporting that Dobbins, not a sure thing to be ready for week 1. And then Dobbins comes back and says, hey, now hold on a second. Let me tell you what's really going on. So you have these Ravens now that, look, they're not afraid to mix it up on Twitter now to let their voices be heard. I mean, what did you think about, Lamar Jackson's Twitter debate with Bernard Pollard, and then you have J.K. Dobbins talking about his own recovery, depending on what Ian Rappaport says, what's true and what's not. We're not doctors. What do you think about that whole situation?
I think they tie together into a team that's coming off of, their first time missing the playoffs in this era, in this Lamar Jackson era. And obviously they were hobbled, broken, beaten, damned, all of those things with guys on IR. Lamar Jackson doesn't finish the season, and they are just depleted in every possible aspect. Cornerback room, one of the most important positions in the field, gone. Left tackle, gone. Alejandro Villanueva's having a rough go of it. Lamar Jackson ends up out. All of those things compounding. And I think that they feel disrespected. They feel that, people are heavily continuing to doubt them, a team that has had so much doubt casted on them, saying they were unsustainable, saying that, all of these different things, and did nothing short when they were healthy of be a successful team. So I think that they ultimately just are getting a little soured in a good way. I think for the better of the kind of psyche of the team, that they're not the shiny new fun thing where all of, the cameras are there. Guys are looking elsewhere. Guys are looking at Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow and other shiny toys and teams, while the Ravens feel like they're a little bit forgotten of. And historically, that is when they have gone out and been the Dragon Slayer in the history of this franchise. So I think that bitterness and sourness of that season could hopefully have a silver lining to have that edge and want to go be, a killer at the end of a 2-minute game, down to the last 2 minutes, all of those things. So I think that Lamar is fed up, frankly. The contract situation has brought so much talk, and he has clearly, held it as close to the vest as possible. So I think some of that bubbles over into, who do you think you're disrespecting? Like, I'm a unanimous MVP, and you might have won a Super Bowl, but a lot of guys have won Super Bowls, and only 2 guys have ever won a unanimous MVP. So it just is a lot of frustration. And I think it's starting to maybe hopefully give them that edge that's needed to go win when they have to. And that's what they haven't been able to do in this era. Aside from, a CJ Mosley pick to send them to the playoffs, but they have had a tough go in some of those late season, especially playoff runs. And I think this is the kind of thing where you're seeing a lot of that boiling over, and hopefully it's for the best.
Yeah, and where are you with the Dobbins situation in terms of when you think he could be back? Again, no doctors here, but it feels like he's saying that, yeah, he's going to be back before week 1, might not even have to go on the PUP list. Ian Rappaport's reporting that he no sure thing. What do you think the ultimate timeline for him is based off of what your gut is telling you about the injury and also the fact that the Ravens could decide to just, again, hopefully not rush him back and wait till he's 100%?
Well, it sounds like he's chomping at the bit to stay off the PUP list. He has obviously been very quiet throughout this entire saga. I think it was a super frustrating injury, especially considering it occurred in preseason, all of those things. So we have seen the zero dark, JK23 for quite some time. And again, it's just that frustration boiling over. And now it's hard to say after he goes out and says what he said that he's not going to be ready for week 1. And I don't know that he's really going to want to participate in the early portion of training camp and the contact heavy portion while he can just continue to health that knee up, make sure that it feels as comfortable as possible. Then I imagine he's probably going to come back towards the end of camp and go practice. He's not going to touch a preseason field and pads. No way, no how. But I think he's going to see if he can go tear up, maybe 7 to 10 practices to end training camp and try and, force himself into football shape. And he's a pretty bad man, so I wouldn't put that past him. It seems like he's been on the revenge tour theory for quite some time. And although all the rumblings I had heard were to the contrary, so I was very interested to hear that Ian Rapoport is tweeting out differently. It was a little surprising. I have heard nothing but the contrary, that he would, be in a decent place, and maybe Gus Edwards would be the one to take a little bit longer. But I don't know. Now we've got some mixed bag here. Again, we're not doctors, but I think he's going to really try to go press himself and practice towards the end of camp and see if, it's good to go. And if it's not, then it's not. And hopefully he's able to call it if it's not, but we hope it is. And, 12 months is a good bit of time to get back onto the field. From everything I've ever read, I'm not a doctor, but 9.5 months, 10 months is the bare minimum needed. And he's a little bit past that. So hopefully the rehab has been everything and more, but it is tough, man. It's a really tough injury to come back from. And he's got willpower. He's an incredible athlete, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And again, if you didn't know, for those listening, we are not doctors, just by the way, but it
Not
feels like
doctors.
no doctors.
It's a house of learning doctors.
Yes, exactly. We're making sure that we understand about the injuries, but again, it's more like it's interesting what you made, because you're right. It feels like Dobbins would have been the one, at least based off of everything, that, he's going to be the one to return first, and maybe Edwards follows. But then Rapoport goes and he says, yeah, Dobbins not so sure. But Edwards seems pretty likely. So it's like the flip-flopping there of everything that goes on. And also it takes some time for every different player. I mean, you can look at NBA examples. Jamal Murray suffered a torn ACL last April, and he didn't come back for the entire, you missed the end of that year. The playoffs didn't come back for the entire year. People thought, he'll come back in February. He'll come back. But it just kept pushing back. So these guys, they have the physical hurdles, the mental hurdles. So hopefully those guys will be able to come back fully healthy and be able to tear up on the field like obviously we've seen them do before. But we'll head into our first break here on Locked On Ravens. Still a ton to talk about. Let me get back. We'll be talking about training camp a little bit, talking about some rookies and what to expect, what to watch for. So be sure to stay tuned. Still a ton to talk about here on Locked On Ravens. First, though, I do want to tell you about Dave. And sometimes your hindsight can be 20/20 and you can't change the past. But what if you can do that and get a little help from your future self? Maybe you'd ask to borrow a little cash. Now you can do that with Dave. Dave is the banking app that can help you get up to $500 in instant cash with extra cash. That's more money to fill your tank, buy a wedding gift, or catch up on bills. You can finally tackle those expenses that have been stressing you out without any hangups. There's no interest and no credit check needed, so millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch and need some extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from future you. Download the Dave app from the App Store right now. That's DAVE. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. It's a stress free supply, banking provided by eVault, member FDIC. The future you will thank you. We're back. Our second segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with Spencer Schultz of Baltimore Beatdown. And Spencer, man, it's a great feeling to have football back in the air. It's been a while since we've had it. We haven't seen this Ravens team play since early January. Feels like it's been forever, but now with rookies reporting, I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the rookies that are coming in, because the Ravens obviously had an 11-player draft class, a very big one. And so let's start off with the first, second, and third rounders. So days 1 and 2, Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum, first rounders, both of them. Kyle Hamilton at 14, Tyler Linderbaum at 25. What are you most excited to see, to hear about from those two as training camp kicks off for them here?
Definitely excited to hear about Hamilton. It's a little easier, especially in the non-contact practices, to get an idea of where a rookie is making plays, where a rookie is able to stand out. So if you're kind of on the perimeter, you're involved in a lot of, the passing game stuff on the outside, receivers, tight ends, running backs to a degree, DBs, linebackers, a little easier to tell what's going on there. We don't get to throw in all 22 of practice film. Bill Belichick might have access to all 32 teams, who knows, but we do not. So we're unable to get that real sense of where Linderbaum will be, but I imagine that he's not going to start with the ones, and he's going to have to work his way up to one. That's typically how it goes. He wasn't, a top 5 pick or anything. Hamilton, I think the same thing. Probably will start on second team and work his way through and get a ton of first team reps no matter what. So I don't think either guy was drafted to not have a really significant role this season. And from all accounts, Kyle Hamilton, really everywhere he's ever gone or anything he's done in his life, he has hit the ground running. His first play of his true freshman season at Notre Dame was a pick 6. Apparently, he had like 2 interceptions in his first day of full live 11 on 11 when he got to Notre Dame. So the kid walked into minicamp and I think had a 3 interception day. So he just has that golden boy feel about him, and think it's going to be a little bit of that same thing, and think the Ravens got a darn good player. So he's going to get up there pretty quickly. I'm very excited to see. He seems like someone who could have some fun battles with Mark Andrews and some of those bigger bodies that they have. And Linderbaum, generally just excited to know that he's getting that work in and waiting for preseason tape to come out and see if he gets his way in there and goes and looks the part. So I think that's where we're at with those two.
Yeah, and is there anything that you would want to see them specifically working on in training camp? Maybe something that you saw in their game throughout the pre-draft process that you'd like to see them improve, that maybe the team can work with them throughout training camp and get it a little bit more down under control?
Definitely. I mean, you want to see Kyle Hamilton really continue to prove that he can carry the seam. Go do it against NFL bodies. There's tons of players that have been touted as being, the tight end eraser type of longer safety in the game. And then you go play a guy like Mark Andrews in practice, and it's a very different beast. Tight ends typically are not high impact players as rookies in the NFL. Guys like, Kyle Pitts have been, and some sort like the rookie record for tight ends in comparison yards wise with what the single season record is crazy. So I think it's a big deal to go practice against the Mark Andrews and see what you can go do in those situations, get those big bodies. We'll see, him, Kolar, and Isaiah Likely probably have some awesome battles, and just want to see him continue to prove he's physical enough, strong enough, and able to carry that team. I think that's really the one thing that the Ravens have lacked over the years is, and frankly, I hate to say it, I love Tony Jefferson as a player, but he was supposed to be brought in to be a tight end eraser. They made a significant investment in him, and it just didn't work out in Baltimore. He couldn't take him out of games. He would be in the right place at the right time, just wasn't quite long enough to go play that big boy ball. So excited to see what he can do in that sense. Linderbaum, on the other hand, just would love to see him in one-on-ones, dropping anchor. He's a smaller guy, so prove that you're a strong guy regardless. Prove that size doesn't matter. Prove that you can move guys out of the A-gap. That is going to be his ultimate battle test this entire preseason is, can you go get lined up by a zero tech and seal him off in your face? He's coming downhill. Didn't have a lot of those square blocks. Can you move bodies when you down block, when you're working double teams in power? He pulled a little bit at Iowa. I think it's been overstated how much he pulled, very much so. So I imagine that's going to be a little bit more of what Greg Roman wants to do. Some of those GT pulls. The Eagles do a ton of them with Kelsey. They are very difficult to comprehend. A lot of wrinkles and reverses get added to them, especially with how the Ravens run motion. So excited to see what Linderbaum can go do in space. But what we want to see improvement-wise is him just prove the ability to really own that A-gap against Michael Pierce or against a Travis Jones or some of these really dominant, strength-wise players that the Ravens possess, and to go do that in the preseason against, lower level and maybe a little bit of high-level competition.
Yeah, and I think for Linderbaum, you kind of talked about it a little earlier, Spencer, where I wouldn't be shocked if Linderbaum starts on that first official depth chart as the second center, kind of having to work his way up. But what's your percentage for Linderbaum that he starts week 1?
I think it's 100%. I think he's going to go start. I don't think they drafted him not to. I think he has I think they drafted him large part due to his attitude, work ethic, and presence. And I think if you take him round 1, then I'm going to put a very strong, I'll go with 90% that they're going to put Linderbaum at center in week 1. I think that you drafted him for a reason. He's very different from what you have. You let Bradley Bozeman go. I think they like McCary as that sixth man, especially with a lot of the left tackle work he can put in right now. He's, aside from Morgan Moses, probably the only guy that's healthy you trust to maybe go play some left tackle for you. So I think that's where he's most important. So I think Linderbaum's got a very strong chance of cracking it. Just has to have a solid camp for himself, and he will ultimately become the starter. But if he struggles and is severe, then maybe there's a shot. But ultimately, strong chance.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you put that much draft capital into a guy like that, a center prospect, I think you probably are going to start him. Obviously, again, there are certain circumstances where he doesn't, but I'm going to put it at 95. I just feel like, again, he'll probably start off as the second stringer, will work his way up with a strong, solid camp, as you talked about. But I know, Spencer, people are excited about the Ravens' second and third round picks also. You got David Ajabo, who, again, we don't know when he's coming back, but the potential's there. And then also you have Travis Jones, who I think could really carve himself out a huge role in this defensive line, even though there are a lot of talented players there. I mean, what are you looking for? I know Ajabo might not be on the field for most of training camp, depending, but for Travis Jones, what are you looking for out of him?
Really looking for Travis Jones to continue to wreck plays in the pass game. He has dynamite in his hands, some of the strongest hands I've ever seen in Mobile, and can really, really, really move guys. So I think that's a good test for Linderbaum. Travis Jones is an elite testing athlete. He is a capable pass rusher. That's, generally another thing that's tough to do as a rookie is come in, play interior defensive line, and generate a bunch of, sacks and pressures. We saw Barmore do it to an extent and was far and away the only rookie that was really a significant interior pass rusher. So interested to see, how does it translate? Is he able to get elevated snaps, first team snaps? Is he able to start getting second, first team snaps consistently, especially early on? I think tells you a lot in those circumstances. He is battling guys like Broderick Washington, a guy like Justin Madubuike, it is ahead of him to start easily far and away. So Calais Campbell's there. Michael Pierce is there. Where are you going to fit in? Are you going to be able to steal some first team snaps? And I think a big thing for him is just going to be hunkering down in the run game. That's where it starts. You got to be, if you want to get on the field on first and second down, 2/3 of the ball game, essentially, you've got to be able to execute your assignments up front. And you've got someone great to learn from in Michael Pierce, a veteran that is a very sharp A-gapper, big body, and you're more athletic than he is in some way as well. He is a freak in the weight room, but I think I'm just curious to see, can he get those first team snaps? Can he work his way into blowing up plays in the run game? And can he create a buzz, get your hands up, bat some balls down, all those kinds of things?
Yeah, and I know going back to Ajabo, Spencer, again, I will say it, we are not doctors, but you're looking at a guy like that who tore his Achilles in March, and there's been a lot of mixed things about, he'll be back before week 1. He's not going to play at all in 2022. Like, there's been so many mixed things about him. Again, what's your gut feeling with that situation? Do you feel like he sees the field at all during training camp?
I do not think he sees the training camp field at all. No point. I don't think. They're not going to be hurting early unless Tyus Bowser is really set back. I think they have enough ability to man with this season without him if need be, absolutely. Because on top of getting back into, a healthy Achilles, which is very difficult, you also need to get into NFL football shape while not being able to work out at full capacity the entirety of your rookie season, your rookie off season. So I don't think we see him. Maybe we see him January, December, but I don't think we see him in August at all.
Yeah, and I know for him, even if the Ravens do have to redshirt him for his rookie season, what I've been saying consistently is I think it is trading a 2022 second for a 2023 first. If you get him back fully healthy, if he doesn't play at all in 2022, you're still getting a talented player who's just starting a little bit later. So I think that was absolutely worth the draft capital there. But yeah, I'm excited for those day 1 and day 2 picks. And when we get back here, we're going to be talking about those day 3 selections, some undrafted guys, what to watch for in training camp from them. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Still to talk about here on Locked On Ravens. First, though, I do want to tell you a bit about Built Bar, and there's a lot of exciting stuff going on at Built right now. And if you haven't tried that coconut brownie chunk Built Bar yet, well, you can try it in a different form. As your friends at Built have given the coconut brownie chunk the puffs treatment. So now that coconut brownie chunk Built Bar is a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cut of coconut brownie goodness. And all Built Bars are made with proteins, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides a ton of health benefits. So you can eat something that tastes good and is good for you. And the best part about Built is that they taste amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free. And so that delicious coconut, rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow, you can stop fantasizing about that and get to Built.com to order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs right now. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15. You get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15. We're back. Our final segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Ostreicher, your host, still here with Spencer Schultz. And I know, Spencer, there's a lot to talk about with these day 3 guys because the Ravens had 6 fourth-rounders they decided to take. I thought, hey, maybe they'll package 1 or 2 of these fourths and move up or something. No, they took everybody, also adding Tyler Beatty in the 6th round. But let's start with the 6 fourth-rounders. I'm going to just list them off. You have Daniel Falele, you have Jalen Armour-Davis, Charlie Kolar, Jordan Stout, Isaiah Likely, Pepe Williams. I mean, it's a pretty good haul of players, a lot of different positions, different skill sets. I mean, which guys are you most excited to see at training camp out of those guys, and what are you looking for out of them?
I mean, I'm most excited to see the big kangaroo, Daniel Falele. I want to see, can he work into second-team snaps? Can he work into, a touch of first-team snaps? A guy that is looked at as needing so much development, but also should be an impact-level run blocker immediately. Do we see them use some jumbo? Do we see them use some offset? Do we see them work him in those bigger packages? Is he in the goal line packages? I want to see what the big fella does. He is gigantic. I am excited for him, very much so. Again, it's tough to see in practice at times, as opposed to some of the perimeter positions, but preseason tape, I want to see what Daniel Falele is doing. He might have the most snaps of anyone on this team in the preseason. That would not be unrealistic, I don't think. So I think he's going to get a lot of reps. And I think in preseason, they're going to stick him in there late in games, and we're going to see straight dropbacks. They want him to work on his true vertical pass set, something that has come along. He has flashed in brilliant movements, very, very clean at times, but still is trying to feel his set point, try to feel where he can really hunker down. So he is the most intriguing one to me. Jalen Armour-Davis, also very excited for. Can you be physical? Can you make plays on the ball? Can you look sharp? Can you draw eyes on you? Can you, get riled up after making big plays, get some confidence early? Those seem to be the rookie corners that stick. I think corner is a very ego necessary position. I couldn't think of the right way to say it. Ego necessary position where you need to be able to get yourself jacked up, make plays, get your hand on the ball. DBs need to live in that world of saying no, breaking the ball up, making those plays early. And then you maybe want to give him a shot very early on. Maybe want to get him into games and packages and certain things, have him blitz off the edge, do a couple funny things. So excited for him as well. Obviously the tight ends, Kolar, Likely, want to see if they can go make plays. Kolar, we're hoping to see stretch the seam, while Likely we're hoping to see be used creatively and get open and be able to beat some man coverage and go do some of those things. So very, very excited for those guys. And it'll be fun watching, the new Wolfpack, Jordan Stout coming in, able to go vibe with Justin Tucker, bring a little bit of flow to Justin Tucker's Opera House and see what the hypothesis or the, I guess, combination of chemicals is there. That's going to be a funny element. I'm sure they'll do some hijinks that'll have some fun views on Ravens.com and get those guys laughing together.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he can hit the 57-yarders. He can do holding. He can kick off. He can punt. Obviously, he's a player. He's versatile in his own right. And I'm ready to see more Pepe Williams content. I mean, he's somebody who's already become such a fan favorite based off the walking out to practice videos, the social team posts on there. And he's a player too that intrigues me. Where is he going to play at? It feels like he's more slot. Maybe play him at safety, but I know that he can play on the outside if you need him to. I know he's a little bit on the smaller side, so maybe you don't want him there, but I'm excited to see what he can do. But Spencer, I know in the 6th round, this team took Tyler Beatty, someone who I had a 4th round grade on. I feel like a lot of people thought him to go a little earlier than he did. And now that he could potentially, again, depending on what happens with Dobbins and Edwards, could have a big role, maybe alongside Mike Davis in week 1. So what are you looking for out of him in training camp?
Pass pro. Want to see him be in pass pro. Again, it's just going to be defined by where is he getting placed ultimately. He is going to go run crisp routes. He is going to go beat linebackers and some safeties in one-on-ones. he is a good route runner. We have seen that just at Mobile. He is crisp. He is sharp. He is going to catch the ball well. So really just want to see how trusted is he throughout those first 2-3 weeks. Does he start to move up? That's really just the question with all these guys. Do they start to earn reps higher and higher? And he should really be the second team running back to start camp. So he's going to have probably the most opportunity of any unheralded or later round day 3 player to start training camp of really any Raven I can remember in the last few years, being the second team running back that can catch passes week 1, day 1 of training camp in all likelihood. Maybe they have, Nate McCrary taking reps ahead of him or something, but Tyson Williams, we'll see. But at the end of the day, just very excited to see Beatty.
Yeah, he's going to be a player. And I feel like the Ravens are, again, we talked about it a bit last year during the offseason, but it felt like they were really trying to move into hey, we're going to get our running backs involved in the passing game a lot more. I know J.K. Dobbins was talking about it. Gus Edwards seemed excited about it. And then they go down and you're thinking, well, you're going to try to use it with maybe Le'Veon Bell, Devonta Freeman, Latavius Murray. But I feel like this year they added that skill set. Mike Davis can catch passes. Tyler Beatty, obviously you talked about it. I mean, also Dobbins and Edwards aren't bad receivers. Like Gus Edwards was running down the field, catching like 40-yard passes, like trucking over dudes. Like he could do that stuff. So I'm excited for those guys. But it feels like for the Ravens, Spencer, they always have an undrafted rookie on the roster. Now that streak broke a couple of years ago, but they have a lot of talented guys that I feel like you could maybe look at the roster right now with everyone who was undrafted they brought in. I could see maybe 2 guys making this roster, maybe more. You have maybe one on offense, one on defense. Which undrafted rookies are you looking forward to seeing in training camp?
Well, definitely not Tyson Williams, like I just said in the last question. Totally blank that he's a Colt now. Totally blank that he's a Colt now. But definitely Zakoby McClain, Jeremiah Moon defensively. I think that linebacker position, there are some possibilities going on over there. Jeremiah Moon, a guy that played a little bit of outside linebacker as well, has been there a little bit, it looked like, in minicamp. So we'll see. I think Zakoby McClain was a very effective first and second down, kind of stiffer linebacker that, you're not going to go asking man coverage, but got to his spots in his drops, hit where he was supposed to hit, wasn't a high impact coverage guy, but wasn't a liability necessarily. So can you go hit those spots? Absolutely. Would love to see those guys stand up and add to that middle rotation of players for the Ravens. And just very curious to see how those guys play out. There's also all of the big receivers. They brought in all of the big receivers in the world, the kid from Oregon, the kid from Cal. They're going to try and work them the ball, get them involved. And it's going to be interesting to see how that position pans out. A guy like Benjamin Victor, who I'm going to qualify into the UDFA territory. Can he really emerge among those guys or above those guys is another curious one for me. But at the end of the day, just very, very curious to see who does finally emerge. It usually is someone you don't expect to necessarily. Pat McCary emerges out of nowhere and suddenly is, starting his rookie year for the Ravens in the playoffs. So it is a fun game to play every single year. And I'm going to put my money on Mr. Zakoby McClain to make this roster.
Yeah, I know we both had McClain and Jeremiah Moon, I think, a couple weeks ago making the final roster. I don't know if yours has changed, but I still have those 2 guys. And I mean, I have to ask you an honorary question for the final one about a receiver, but not a big one. In Mr. Slade Bolden out of Alabama, someone who he's getting a lot of hype on Twitter. I mean, it feels like people love him. The skill set might be a bit redundant. Do you feel that way, or do you feel like he has a legit chance to make the roster, even though he's not as big as some of these other guys?
I do feel that he is redundant, but nonetheless, I find that he can make this roster simply because it is one of their weakest positions. So a UDFA in the weakest position is always going to have a better shot. He was a Bama guy, made some big time catches here and there in some big time games for them. He was never, he wasn't a Hunter Renfrow in college or anything like that in that archetype that they're all in, but they ultimately need someone to emerge. So going to have every chance. They don't have enough guys that were on an NFL team last year to go say, okay, well, it is going to be Benjamin Victor. It is going to be so-and-so. So Slade Bolden can absolutely work, prove himself on special teams is obviously going to be extremely key. And if he's able to go look competent in kick coverage, punt coverage, returning punts, getting out there, making some blocks, doing the right things, making tough catches, he could very much take that kind of same James Prochet role. And if he does it really well, it's hard to leave him off the team if a guy plays like that in practice. So Slade Bolden definitely has a shot despite not being someone you can stick on the outside, which they need. And not being a burner. So if he just goes out there and continues to get better, does what he's supposed to do in a very weak positional group depth-wise, then he's got a shot.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens, it's pretty clear that obviously a big-bodied receiver would help them out a ton. Some type of speedster would help them out a ton. But if Slade Bolden goes out there and just has an amazing preseason, is absolutely just working guys in training camp, it's hard to leave someone like that off the roster, even if you only are keeping 5 receivers instead of 6, which again, it seems like maybe that could be the route they're going. So I think the Ravens, they have a ton of options undrafted wise. I think, again, that 11-player draft class in itself is really good, but then you have the undrafted guys, or you could maybe get a couple of key contributors out of that for the next couple of seasons, and maybe even beyond that as well. But Spencer, I appreciate you hopping on with me here. Thank you so much for joining me again. Football's in the air. It's going to continue to smell a little bit better each and every day, and I'm excited to continue covering it with you here.
Absolutely, man. Football's in the air. I'm pumped for it, and it's going to be a fun season. A team that's looking to go prove that they are who we thought they were going into last season before all those injuries occurred. So going to be a lot of fun, excited, going to be some fun content, fun episodes, and excited to keep on rocking.
Yeah, absolutely. And a quick reminder, the Ravens were 8-3 and at the top of the AFC through 12 weeks. And then everybody, of course, only remembers the 6-game losing streak. So this team was in it. They had the injuries. And even despite that, it didn't get any better. They had the stuff to start off the year. So this is a team that, again, feels a little bit forgotten right now, but it feels like they know that. And they're going to try to prove themselves again here in 2022. But that's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in. When we get back here tomorrow, we'll be diving into your mailbag questions. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And I will see you right back here tomorrow.